I'm standing in my living room at 7 in the morning, still in my pajamas, holding my 6-month-old granddaughter Lily as she screams at the top of her lungs. My phone keeps buzzing on the coffee table, call after call from Dr. Chen's office. I know exactly why they're calling, and my stomach drops every time I see that number flash across the screen. Just 20 minutes ago, my daughter Jessica was at my front door with Lily's diaper bag slung over her shoulder and that look on her face, the one that says she's already made up her mind and nothing I say will matter. "Mom, I know you said you couldn't watch her today, but I really need you to step up here," she'd said, not even looking me in the eye as she shifted Lily from her hip to mine. "My boss moved up that big presentation, and I can't miss it. You understand, right?" I'd opened my mouth to remind her about my appointment, the one I'd already postponed twice because she needed me. The cardiac stress test that Dr. Chen had called urgent after my chest pains last month. The appointment that Jessica had rolled her eyes at when I first mentioned it, calling it one of Mom's doctor drama sessions. But before I could get a word out, Jessica was already walking back to her car, tossing a quick, "I'll pick her up around 6" over her shoulder, like this was just another favor, like my health didn't matter at all. Now I'm here, bouncing Lily as she cries, watching through the window as Jessica's silver Honda disappears down Maple Street. The irony isn't lost on me. I'm holding the person I love most in this world, while the person who's supposed to love me most just treated me like I'm completely invisible. My phone buzzes again. This time I answer it. "Mrs. Hartwell? This is Sarah from Dr. Chen's office. We have you down for your stress test at 9 this morning, but we wanted to confirm since you've had to reschedule twice already." I look down at Lily, whose crying has softened to little hiccups against my shoulder. Her tiny fist is wrapped around my finger, trusting me completely. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. I have to cancel again. My daughter had an emergency." There's a pause on the other end. "Mrs. Hartwell, Dr. Chen asked me to let you know that given your recent symptoms, the chest pains and shortness of breath, we really can't keep postponing this test. She's concerned about you." The words hit me like a slap. Dr. Chen is concerned about me. My own daughter isn't. I held my granddaughter in my arms and realized that the person who was supposed to love me most had just treated me like I didn't matter at all. Before we start, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. Standing there in my quiet house, listening to Lily's breathing steady against my chest, I had no idea that this moment, this feeling of being completely erased by my own child, was about to change everything. I thought I was just being a good mother, a good grandmother. I didn't realize I was slowly disappearing, one canceled appointment at a time. Before that morning, before I understood what it felt like to be invisible in my own family, I was Eleanor Hartwell, the woman everyone turned to when life got complicated. I was the steady one, the reliable one, the one who never said no. For 58 years, that's who I'd been. When my neighbor Mrs. Patterson needed someone to watch her house while she visited her sister in Denver, she called me. When Jessica's college roommate needed a place to stay during her divorce, I cleared out the guest room without hesitation. When my mother-in-law Helen needed rides to her doctor appointments, I rearranged my schedule every time. But it was after Tom died 8 months ago that being needed became my lifeline. Those first weeks after the funeral were the darkest of my life. 34 years of marriage, and suddenly I was waking up to empty coffee cups and silence that felt like it had weight. I'd find myself setting 2 plates for dinner, reaching for his reading glasses when I couldn't find mine, saving up funny stories to tell him when he got home from work, only to remember all over again that he never would. That's when Jessica started calling more often. "Mom, could you watch Lily while I run to the store?" "Mom, I'm swamped at work. Could you pick up some groceries for me?" "Mom, you're so much better with her than I am." And I said yes to everything. God, I was so grateful to say yes. Within a month, I was watching Lily 3 days a week. Jessica would drop her off Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday mornings, usually with that bright smile that reminded me so much of Tom. "You're literally saving my life, Mom," she'd say, kissing my cheek as she handed over the diaper bag. "Lily's so lucky to have a grandmother like you." I lived for those words. I lived for the way Lily's face lit up when she saw me, the way she reached for me with those chubby little hands. I baby-proofed my house, bought a high chair and a crib, learned to make her favorite mashed bananas just the way she liked them. But it wasn't just babysitting. I found myself stopping by Jessica's apartment with groceries when I knew her budget was tight. "Oh, Mom, you didn't have to do this," she'd say, but she never told me to stop. When her car broke down, I quietly transferred money into her account. When she needed a new winter coat, I bought it. When she ran out of diapers, I had extras ready. "I don't know what I'd do without you, Mom," Jessica told me one evening as we sat on my porch watching Lily take her first wobbly steps across the yard. "You're my hero. You hold this whole family together." Those words wrapped around my heart like a warm blanket. After losing Tom, taking care of my girls gave me a reason to get up every morning, a purpose that made the quiet house feel less empty. I thought I was building something beautiful, a close, loving family where we took care of each other. I thought being needed meant being loved. I thought saying yes to everything was what good mothers and grandmothers did. I had no idea I was actually teaching my daughter that my needs didn't matter. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late September when I first felt it. That sharp, squeezing pain in my chest that made me stop halfway up the stairs to my bedroom. I gripped the banister, waiting for it to pass, telling myself it was just heartburn from the leftover pizza Jessica and I had shared while Lily napped. But the pain came back the next day, and the day after that. By Friday, I couldn't ignore the tightness anymore, or the way I'd been getting winded just carrying Lily up from the basement playroom. Tom had been only 62 when his heart attack took him. The thought that kept circling my mind was one I didn't want to face. What if something was wrong with me too? So I made the call I'd been putting off and scheduled an appointment with Dr. Chen, a cardiologist Tom's doctor had recommended. The earliest she could see me was October 15th, still 3 weeks away, but at least I'd done something. That evening, Jessica came to pick up Lily after another long day at her marketing firm. She looked exhausted, her blonde hair escaping from its ponytail, mascara slightly smudged under her eyes. I made her a cup of coffee, and we sat at my kitchen table while Lily played with her blocks on the floor. "Honey, I need to let you know that I have a doctor's appointment coming up," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. "October 15th. It's with a heart specialist." Jessica looked up from her phone, where she'd been scrolling through work emails. "A heart specialist? Why?" I hesitated, not wanting to worry her. "I've been having some chest pains. It's probably nothing, but I want to make sure." For a moment, Jessica's face showed genuine concern. "Mom, are you okay? Should I be worried?" "I'm sure it's fine," I said quickly. "But the appointment is on a Tuesday, so I won't be able to watch Lily that day." That's when everything shifted. Jessica's expression changed from concern to something that looked almost like irritation. She set down her coffee cup a little too hard. "October 15th? Mom, that's the week of my big work conference. I've been planning this presentation for months, and childcare is so expensive right now." She ran her hands through her hair, sighing dramatically. "Can't you reschedule it? Maybe for a day when I don't need you?" I blinked, not sure I'd heard her correctly. "Jessica, this is about my heart." "I know, but you said it's probably nothing, right?" She was already pulling out her phone again, checking her calendar. "Look, if it was really serious, they would have gotten you in right away. These routine checkups can happen anytime." Something cold settled in my stomach, but I pushed it down. Jessica was stressed about work. She didn't mean to sound so dismissive. She was just overwhelmed, like any working single mother would be. "Of course, honey," I heard myself saying. "The appointment can wait. Your conference is important." Jessica's relief was immediate. "Thank you, Mom. You're the best. I knew you'd understand." As I watched her pack up Lily's things, chattering about her presentation and how this conference could really advance her career, I tried to ignore the small voice in my head asking why my daughter's work stress mattered more than my heart. I told myself I was just being sensitive. Family comes first, after all. The weeks after I canceled my doctor's appointment, I started noticing things I'd been too grateful to see before. Little moments that felt like paper cuts, small enough to ignore individually, but together they left me feeling raw and diminished. It started with Jessica's timing. She'd always been a few minutes late picking up Lily, but now she was arriving 30, sometimes 45 minutes past our agreed time. Last Wednesday, she was supposed to get Lily at 4 p.m. At 5:30, I called her. "Oh, Mom, sorry, I stopped by Target and lost track of time. I'll be there in 20. No apology when she finally arrived at 6:15. Just a breezy, "Thanks for being flexible," as she scooped up Lily and her belongings. When I mentioned that I'd had to cancel my dentist appointment because of the delay, Jessica shrugged. "At least you didn't have to pay a cancellation fee like I would have at daycare." Then there was our weekly lunch tradition. For 2 months after Tom died, Jessica and I had met every Sunday at Romano's Deli, our special time to talk without Lily demanding attention. But lately, Jessica had been canceling at the last minute. "Rain check, Mom? Claire invited me to this networking brunch, and I really need to make connections for work." "Sorry, can we do next week? I promised I'd help Marcus move some furniture, and it's the only day that works." Change of plans. I'm exhausted and just need to sleep in today. Each cancellation came with a perfectly reasonable excuse, but they were always her plans changing mine, never the other way around. When I suggested maybe we could reschedule for a day that worked better for her, Jessica looked at me like I was being unreasonable. "Mom, you're retired. Your schedule is wide open. Mine actually matters." The words hit like a slap, but Jessica said them so casually, like she was stating an obvious fact rather than dismissing my entire existence. The worst part was how she'd started treating my house like a storage unit. Jessica began leaving Lily's things scattered around, not just during babysitting days, but permanently. Extra clothes in my dresser drawers, toys covering my living room floor, a high chair that never got moved from my kitchen table. When I gently suggested maybe some of Lily's things could go back to Jessica's apartment, she laughed. "Why would I take them home when she spends so much time here? Besides, you love having her stuff around. It makes the house feel less empty, right?" I wanted to say that my house wasn't empty. It was my home, and I deserved to have it feel like mine. But the words stuck in my throat. The breaking point came when I suggested we needed to talk about boundaries. We were folding Lily's laundry together in my living room when I brought it up carefully. "Jessica, honey, I love helping you, but sometimes I feel like you take my availability for granted. Maybe we could work out a schedule that—" "Mom!" Jessica's voice was sharp, cutting me off mid-sentence. "We're family. We don't need to be formal with each other. All this please and thank you and scheduling stuff, it's weird. Just trust that I appreciate you." But appreciation, I was starting to realize, felt very different from respect. The baby shower was held at Jessica's friend Claire's house on a sunny Saturday afternoon in early November. Claire had just had her second baby, and Jessica insisted I come along as her +1. "You'll love meeting the other moms, and they'll adore hearing your grandmother's stories," she'd said, linking her arm through mine as we walked up Claire's front steps. I dressed carefully for the occasion. My navy blue dress with the pearl necklace Tom had given me for our 20th anniversary. I wanted to make a good impression on Jessica's friends, these young professional women I'd heard so much about but never met. The living room was decorated with soft pink balloons and elegant floral arrangements. About 15 women sat in a circle, balancing cake plates and mimosa glasses, while Claire opened gifts. I felt welcomed at first. Several women complimented my pearl necklace, and I enjoyed listening to their stories about pregnancy cravings and sleepless nights. Then Sarah, a petite brunette who worked with Jessica, turned to me with genuine concern in her eyes. "Eleanor, how are you doing? Jessica mentioned you've been having some health issues lately. Something about your heart?" My face flushed with embarrassment. I hadn't realized Jessica had been discussing my medical concerns with her coworkers, but I tried to answer gracefully. "Oh, it's nothing too serious. Just some chest pains my doctor wants to check out. You know how it is. They like to be thorough." Before I could say anything else, Jessica's voice cut across the conversation like a knife. "Oh, Mom's fine. she said loudly, rolling her eyes in a way that made several women look up from their conversations. She's just being dramatic about some little doctor visits. Ever since Dad died, she's convinced every little ache and pain is something major. The room went uncomfortably quiet. I felt my face burn with shame as Jessica continued, her voice taking on that exaggerated, almost mocking tone people use when they're trying to be funny at someone else's expense. She loves the attention, honestly. Last week she canceled babysitting because of an urgent appointment that she could have scheduled any other day. But you know how it is with some people, they need the drama. I sat frozen in my chair, my pearl necklace suddenly feeling like it was choking me. Around the circle, I could see the other women's faces, some looking uncomfortable, others trying to hide smirks behind their mimosa glasses. Claire cleared her throat and quickly changed the subject to baby sleep schedules, but the damage was done. Jessica had just told a room full of strangers that my heart problems were attention-seeking behavior. She'd reduced my genuine health concerns to a character flaw, something embarrassing and dramatic that these professional women should understand and judge. The worst part wasn't just what she'd said, it was how easily the words had come to her, like she'd been thinking these things about me for a while and had just been waiting for the right audience to share them with. I excused myself to use the bathroom and sat on Claire's toilet seat for 10 minutes, trying to steady my breathing and figure out how to get through the rest of the afternoon. In the mirror, I could see my own face, flushed with humiliation, eyes bright with unshed tears. My own daughter had just told a room full of people that I was a dramatic, attention-seeking burden, and she'd smiled while she did it. After the humiliation at Claire's baby shower, I couldn't sleep for 3 nights. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Jessica's voice echoing in my head. She loves the attention, honestly. The casual cruelty of it kept replaying like a broken record. By Wednesday morning, I'd made a decision. I called Dr. Chen's office as soon as they opened. "Sarah, this is Eleanor Hartwell. I'd like to reschedule that cardiac stress test." "Of course, Mrs. Hartwell. How does Tuesday, November 14th look? We have a 9 a.m. opening." I looked at my calendar, seeing the red X I'd drawn through my original appointment date. Tuesday the 14th is perfect. This time, I wrote it in permanent ink. That Sunday evening, I sat in my kitchen with my phone in my hands for nearly 20 minutes before I finally dialed Jessica's number. My heart was pounding. Not the scary chest pain kind, but the nervous kind that comes before difficult conversations. "Hey, Mom," Jessica answered, sounding distracted. I could hear Lily babbling in the background and the sound of Jessica moving around her apartment. "Hi, honey. I need to let you know that I won't be able to watch Lily this Tuesday. I rescheduled my doctor's appointment, the cardiac stress test I mentioned before." The line went quiet, except for Lily's happy squealing. When Jessica finally spoke, her voice had changed completely. Gone was the warm, casual tone she'd answered with. "You rescheduled it for Tuesday? Mom, you know Tuesdays are my busiest day at work. I have back-to-back meetings, and I was counting on you." "I know, Jessica, but I can't postpone this appointment again. Dr. Chen's office has been very patient, but this test needs to happen." "Seriously?" Jessica's voice was getting sharper. "You could literally do this any other day of the week. You're retired, Mom. You have nothing but time. But you choose the one day I specifically need you?" I felt my chest tighten. Not from heart problems this time, but from the familiar weight of guilt Jessica was so skilled at placing on my shoulders. But something had shifted in me since the baby shower. Something had hardened. "Jessica, this is about my health. The same health issues you told a room full of strangers were just me being dramatic and attention-seeking." Another silence. Then, "Oh, come on. You're really going to hold that against me? I was just making conversation. You're being way too sensitive." "I'm not being sensitive. I'm being realistic. And realistically, I need to take care of my health." "Fine." The word came out like ice. "Fine, Mom. I guess your little appointments are more important than helping your own daughter. I guess I'll just have to figure out what single mothers who don't have family support do." The guilt trip was so obvious, so manipulative, that for once it didn't work. "You'll figure it out, Jessica. You're a smart, capable woman. Whatever. Don't expect me to drop everything when you need help. The line went dead. I sat in my quiet kitchen, holding the silent phone, and realized that for the first time in months, I didn't feel like calling her back to apologize. Tuesday morning, November 14th. My alarm was set for 7 a.m. to give me plenty of time to get ready for my 9 o'clock appointment with Dr. Chen. I'd laid out my clothes the night before, printed the forms I needed to fill out, even set my insurance cards by my purse. For the first time in months, I was going to put my health first. At 6:30 a.m., my doorbell started ringing. Not a polite single ring, but the kind of insistent, rapid-fire buzzing that meant someone was leaning on the button. I stumbled out of bed, my heart already racing, both from being startled awake and from the familiar panic that something terrible had happened. I opened the door to find Jessica standing on my porch in her work clothes, a navy blazer and pencil skirt, her hair already perfectly styled. Baby Lily was balanced on her hip, still in pajamas, and looking confused about being awake so early. The massive diaper bag was slung over Jessica's shoulder, along with her work purse and laptop case. "Thank God you're up," Jessica said, stepping past me into the house before I could even speak. "I know we had that stupid fight Sunday, but I couldn't find anyone else to watch her. My regular backup sitter is sick, the daycare doesn't take drop-ins, and Claire can't help because her baby's been up all night." I stood in my doorway in my pajamas, my mind still foggy from sleep, trying to process what was happening. "Jessica, I have my appointment this morning, the one I told you about." "I know, but this is an emergency." She was already setting up Lily's portable high chair in my kitchen, moving with the efficient speed of someone who'd made up her mind. "My boss moved up that client presentation to 8:30, and if I miss this, I could lose my job. You understand that, right?" Lily started to fuss, reaching her arms toward me. Despite everything, I instinctively moved toward her. She was innocent in all this, and she looked scared and confused. "I'll be back by 6 tonight," Jessica continued, kissing Lily's forehead and grabbing her keys. "Maybe we can order pizza and pretend this whole week never happened." "Jessica, wait." But she was already at the door. "Thanks, Mom. You're a lifesaver. Love you." And she was gone, just like that. The sound of her car starting in my driveway felt like a slap. I stood in my kitchen, holding my granddaughter while she began to cry in earnest, and felt something inside me completely shatter. My phone sat on the counter, Dr. Chen's number still programmed in from my call Sunday. I knew I had to make that call again, the call I'd hoped I'd never have to make. "Dr. Chen's office, this is Sarah." "Sarah, this is Eleanor Hartwell." My voice cracked, and I had to pause to compose myself. "I have to cancel my appointment this morning." "Mrs. Hartwell, this is your third cancellation. Is everything okay?" Lily's cries were getting louder, and I was starting to cry too. "My daughter had an emergency. She dropped her baby off and I can't leave." "I see." Sarah's voice was gentle but concerned. "Mrs. Hartwell, Dr. Chen specifically asked me to speak with you if you called to cancel again. She's very worried about your symptoms, the chest pains and shortness of breath you described. We really can't keep postponing this test." Those words broke something open in my chest. Dr. Chen was worried about me. A doctor I'd met once cared more about my well-being than my own daughter did. "I understand," I whispered. "I'll call to reschedule." After I hung up, I sank onto my couch with Lily, both of us crying now. She didn't understand why she was here instead of at home. I didn't understand how I'd become so invisible in my own life. Sitting there in my pajamas, holding my granddaughter while my daughter drove away to her important meeting, I felt like I was disappearing completely. By 10 a.m., Lily had finally stopped crying and settled into her normal routine. I'd managed to get her fed and changed, though my hands were still shaking from the phone call with Dr. Chen's office. The guilt and anger were warring in my chest, anger at Jessica for putting me in this position again, and guilt for feeling angry at all. Maybe I was being selfish. Maybe Jessica really couldn't have found anyone else. Maybe I should have just been grateful that she trusted me with Lily during her crisis. I was changing Lily's diaper on my living room floor when I noticed something unusual in the diaper bag. Tucked between a package of wipes and a container of baby food was a crumpled piece of paper, like something that had been printed out and then hastily shoved into the bag. At first, I almost threw it away, assuming it was just an old shopping list or work document. But as I unfolded it, my heart stopped. It was a screenshot of text messages, printed in black and white. At the top of the page, I could see it was a group chat between Jessica and 3 of her friends, Claire, Sarah, and someone named Megan, whose number I didn't recognize. The conversation was from last week, right after our phone call about my appointment. Claire: "How was your weekend, babe?" Jessica: "Ugh, exhausting. Mom is being so needy lately, always talking about her heart problems and doctor appointments." Sarah: "Is she okay, though? She seemed really worried at the shower." Jessica: "She's fine. I think she just wants attention since Dad died. You know how some people get when they're lonely? Everything becomes a big dramatic crisis." Megan: "My mom did the same thing after my dad's surgery. Suddenly, every little ache was an emergency." Jessica: "Exactly. Like, if it was really serious, they would have gotten her in right away, right? But she keeps scheduling these urgent appointments that she can reschedule whenever I need her." Claire: "At least she's helpful with Lily, though." Jessica: "Oh, totally. Easy babysitter who never says no, lol. And free. I'm definitely not complaining about that part." Sarah: "Didn't you say she canceled on you this week?" Jessica: "She tried to, but I'm pretty sure she'll change her mind. She always does. She needs to feel needed more than she needs to go to some routine checkup." My hands were trembling so badly I nearly dropped the paper. I read it again, then a third time, each word hitting me like a physical blow. Easy babysitter who never says no. She needs to feel needed more than she needs to go to some routine checkup. I think she just wants attention since Dad died. Lily was lying peacefully on her blanket, playing with her feet and making soft cooing sounds. She had no idea that her mother had just reduced her grandmother to a punchline, a convenient service to be mocked behind closed doors. I sat back on my heels, the printed conversation still in my hands, and felt something fundamental shift inside me. This wasn't just about today. This wasn't just about one canceled appointment or one emergency babysitting session. This was how Jessica really saw me. Not as her mother who was struggling with genuine health concerns, not as a woman who was still grieving her husband, not as someone deserving of basic respect and consideration. I was the needy mom with fake health problems who needed to feel needed. I was the free babysitter who never said no. I was a joke. And the worst part was, Jessica had been right about one thing. I always did change my mind. I always did put her needs first. But holding that paper in my shaking hands, I realized that was about to change. I sat on my living room floor for what felt like hours, holding that printed conversation while Lily played contentedly beside me. The words kept swimming in front of my eyes, each one cutting deeper than the last. Easy babysitter who never says no. The casualness of it, the way Jessica had reduced me to a punchline for her friend's entertainment, made my stomach turn. But it was the last line that broke something open inside me. She needs to feel needed more than she needs to go to some routine checkup. Jessica knew. She knew exactly what she was doing to me. I looked down at Lily, who was now reaching for my face with her tiny hands, her eyes bright and trusting. She didn't understand the conversation happening around her, but someday she would. Someday, she'd be watching how the women in her family treated each other, learning what was normal, what was acceptable. "What am I teaching you, sweetheart?" I whispered, lifting her into my lap. "What am I showing you about how women should be treated?" The realization hit me like a physical blow. If Lily grew up watching her grandmother be dismissed, mocked, and taken for granted, what would she learn about her own worth? If she saw me cancel my health appointments to provide free childcare, if she watched me accept disrespect with a smile, what would she think she deserved? "Your grandmother deserves better than this," I said to Lily, my voice growing stronger. "And so do you. You deserve to see women who respect themselves." I thought about my mother, who had raised 3 children during the Depression and never once let anyone treat her like she was dispensable. I thought about my sister Margaret, who had walked away from a marriage when her husband started taking her for granted. I thought about Tom, who had loved me enough to argue with me when I was wrong, respected me enough to ask for my opinion on big decisions, cared about me enough to worry when I was sick. When had I stopped expecting that kind of respect from my own daughter? When had I started accepting crumbs and calling it love? I pulled out my phone and dialed Dr. Chen's office with hands that were no longer shaking. "Sarah, this is Eleanor Hartwell again. I know I just canceled this morning, but I need to reschedule. What's your earliest available appointment?" "Mrs. Hartwell, we actually had a cancellation for Thursday morning at 11 a.m. But are you sure you'll be able to make it this time?" "I'll be there," I said, and for the first time in months, I meant it completely. "And Sarah, if my daughter calls to ask about my appointment, please don't give her any information. This is between me and Dr. Chen." After I hung up, I looked around my living room, at the toys scattered across my coffee table, the high chair permanently stationed in my kitchen, the baby supplies that had taken over my dining room. For months, I'd thought this was love. I'd thought being needed meant being valued. But love doesn't mock you to strangers. Love doesn't dismiss your health concerns as attention-seeking. Love doesn't treat you like a service rather than a person. I gently placed Lily in her bouncy seat and walked to my bedroom, where I pulled out a small notebook from my nightstand drawer. On the first page, I wrote the date and 3 words: "This ends now." Then I started making a list of phone numbers, childcare centers, babysitting services, anything that could help Jessica figure out her own solutions. Because Jessica was right about one thing. I did need to feel needed. But I was finally understanding the difference between being needed and being used. And I was done being used. For the next 3 days, I didn't call Jessica. I didn't explain myself, didn't apologize for having to cancel my appointment, didn't ask how her presentation went. The silence felt strange at first, like holding my breath underwater, but gradually it began to feel like power. Instead of reaching for my phone every time I felt guilty, I reached for my notebook. Thursday morning, after my appointment with Dr. Chen, which revealed I needed medication for high blood pressure but was otherwise manageable, I drove straight to my lawyer's office. Patricia Hendricks had handled Tom's will and our estate planning for years, and she looked surprised to see me walk in without an appointment. "Eleanor, how are you holding up, dear? What can I do for you?" "I need to update my will," I said, settling into the leather chair across from her desk. "Specifically, I want to add some provisions about how my beneficiaries treat me while I'm alive." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "That's unusual. Can you elaborate?" I pulled out the printed text messages from my purse. "I want my will to specify that continued inheritance is contingent on basic respect and consideration. If someone consistently cancels on me, dismisses my health concerns, or treats me as a free service rather than family, they forfeit their inheritance." Patricia read the messages, her expression growing more serious with each line. "Eleanor, I can draft something like this, but it's quite specific. Are you sure?" I've never been more sure of anything in my life. That afternoon, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and systematically researched every childcare option within 10 miles of Jessica's apartment. I made a spreadsheet with names, phone numbers, rates, and availability. I printed business cards for 3 highly rated babysitting services and tucked them into an envelope. Friday, I called my bank and removed Jessica as an authorized user on my emergency savings account, the one I'd been quietly transferring money from whenever she had unexpected expenses. When the banker asked if I wanted to notify her of the change, I said no. I also called my phone company and turned off the feature that allowed Jessica to access my location. She'd started using it to see if I was home before dropping by unannounced, and I realized I didn't want to be that available anymore. Saturday, I drove to Office Depot and bought a large desk calendar. Back home, I spread it across my dining room table and marked every single one of my medical appointments for the next 6 months in bright red ink. My quarterly checkup with my primary doctor, my follow-up with Dr. Chen, my dentist appointment, my eye exam. Each red X was a declaration. These dates were non-negotiable. Sunday morning, I did something I hadn't done since Tom died. I went to church by myself. Not because Jessica needed me to watch Lily. Not because I was meeting Jessica there afterward. but because I wanted to go. I sat in our old pew, listened to Pastor Williams talk about finding strength in difficult seasons, and felt something like peace settle over me for the first time in months. After church, I stopped at the grocery store and bought ingredients for one of Tom's favorite meals: beef stroganoff. I was going to make it just for myself, eat it at my own table, and not save leftovers for anyone. When I got home, my phone had 7 missed calls from Jessica. I turned it off and started cooking. Thursday morning, 6:04 a.m. My phone rang with Jessica's special ringtone, the same cheerful chime I'd assigned to her calls when she was 16, and I wanted to make sure I never missed them. For 34 years, that sound had made me instantly available, ready to drop everything and help. This time, I let it ring 3 times before answering. "Hi, Jessica." "Mom, thank God you picked up. I have an emergency at work again, that big client I told you about. They moved their meeting to this morning, and my regular sitter just texted that she has the flu. I know we haven't talked since Sunday, but I really need you to step up here. I'm already in the car with Lily. I'll be there in 10 minutes. I stayed quiet for a moment, listening to the sound of Jessica's car engine through the phone, Lily babbling in the background. A week ago, that sound would have sent me scrambling to get dressed, to clear my schedule, to make myself available. Now it just sounded like noise. "Jessica, I have my doctor's appointment today, the one I rescheduled from Tuesday." "Come on, Mom, you can reschedule it again. This client could literally make or break my quarter, and you know how tight money's been since Marcus cut back my child support." There it was, the same script as always. Jessica's crisis trumped my health. Jessica's needs erased my plans. Jessica's convenience required my sacrifice. "I'm not rescheduling again, Jessica. You'll need to make other arrangements." The silence on the other end stretched so long, I thought she might have hung up. When she finally spoke, her voice had that sharp edge I recognized from her teenage years. "Are you seriously going to leave me hanging like this? What am I supposed to do?" "What any other working mother would do when their regular childcare falls through: figure it out." "Figure it out?" Jessica's voice was rising now, taking on that incredulous tone she used when things didn't go her way. "Mom, I'm your daughter. Lily is your granddaughter. We're not any other people. We're your family." "Exactly. We're family. Which means you should treat me with the same respect you'd show a stranger." Another long pause. I could hear Jessica's turn signal clicking, and I realized she was probably still driving toward my house, assuming she could change my mind once she got here. "I can't believe you're being this selfish. After everything I've been through, after all the help you've given me, you're just going to abandon me when I really need you?" The guilt trip was so familiar, I could have recited it along with her. But this time, instead of the familiar weight settling on my chest, I felt something else entirely. Clarity. "Jessica, I'm not abandoning you. I'm going to a medical appointment that I've already postponed twice. If that feels like abandonment to you, then maybe we need to talk about what your expectations have become." "Fine." The word came out like ice. "Fine, Mom. Don't help me. I'll figure something out, and I'll remember this the next time you need something from me." "I hope you do remember this," I said calmly. "I hope you remember what it feels like when someone you love has boundaries." I hung up and turned off my phone. For the first time in months, the silence felt like freedom instead of abandonment. I returned from Dr. Chen's office at 1:30 p.m., feeling lighter than I had in months. The stress test results were reassuring. My heart was strong, the chest pains were related to anxiety and high blood pressure, both manageable with medication and lifestyle changes. Dr. Chen had smiled when I told her I'd finally prioritized the appointment. "Sometimes the biggest step toward better health is simply showing up for yourself," she'd said. As I pulled into my driveway, I saw Jessica's silver Honda parked in front of my house. She was sitting on my front porch steps with Lily on her lap, and even from a distance, I could see the rigid set of her shoulders. She'd clearly been waiting for a while. I took my time gathering my purse and the paperwork from Dr. Chen's office. There was no rush anymore, no anxiety about Jessica being upset. Whatever conversation was coming, I was ready for it. "There you are," Jessica said as I walked up the path. Her voice was tight with barely controlled anger. "I've been sitting here for 2 hours. I had to call in sick to work because I couldn't find anyone to watch Lily on such short notice." "I'm sorry you had to miss work," I said calmly, unlocking my front door. "How did your childcare search go?" Jessica followed me inside, shifting Lily to her other hip. "My childcare search? Mom, I shouldn't have to search for childcare when I have a mother who's supposed to help me." I set my purse down on the kitchen table and turned to face her fully. "Jessica, we need to talk. Please sit down." Something in my tone must have surprised her, because she actually did sit, settling Lily in her lap with a confused frown. I reached into my purse and pulled out the crumpled text messages, smoothing them flat on the table between us. Jessica's face went white as she recognized the printout. "I found this in Lily's diaper bag Tuesday morning," I said quietly. "I assume it fell out of your purse by accident." Jessica's eyes darted across the page, and I watched her face cycle through emotions: shock, embarrassment, and then defensive anger. "Mom, I can explain." "You don't need to explain. It's all right here in black and white." I pointed to specific lines as I read them aloud. "Easy babysitter who never says no. She needs to feel needed more than she needs to go to some routine checkup. I think she just wants attention since Dad died." Jessica's face flushed red. "Those were private conversations. You weren't supposed to see that." "But I did see it. And now I understand exactly how you view me and my health concerns." I sat down across from her, my voice steady and calm. "Jessica, I've spent 8 months thinking I was helping my daughter through a difficult time. I thought I was being a loving mother and grandmother, but I was actually allowing myself to be used and disrespected. That's not—" "Let me finish." The authority in my voice stopped her mid-sentence. "You've canceled our lunches without apology. You've been consistently late, picking up Lily with no regard for my time. You've made fun of my heart problems to your friends. And you've treated my home like your personal storage unit and daycare center." Jessica's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. I reached into my purse again and pulled out the envelope containing the childcare resources I'd researched. "These are phone numbers for professional babysitters and daycare centers. You're going to need them because I'm no longer available on demand." "Mom, you can't be serious. I've never been more serious in my life." 2 weeks passed in relative quiet. Jessica had stormed out of my house that Thursday afternoon, taking Lily and the childcare information with her. She'd called twice since then, once to demand I return her spare key, and once to ask if I was done with this ridiculous tantrum yet. I changed my locks instead of returning the key. Tuesday evening, I was watering my plants on the front porch when a familiar black pickup truck pulled into my driveway. Marcus Morrison stepped out, looking older than his 34 years, and more serious than I'd seen him since the divorce. "Eleanor, do you have a minute to talk?" Marcus had always been respectful toward me, even during the messy separation from Jessica 2 years ago. He was a good father to Lily, paying his child support on time and taking his custody weekends seriously. I'd often wondered what had really gone wrong in their marriage. "Of course. Come in, have some coffee." We sat at my kitchen table, the same spot where Jessica had dismissed my doctor's appointment just weeks before. Marcus looked uncomfortable, turning his coffee mug in circles on the table. "I need to ask you something, and I want you to know I'm not trying to put you in the middle of anything." "What's on your mind?" "Jessica's been telling people you've become unreliable lately. Unpredictable. She said you've been canceling on her without notice, leaving her stranded with Lily." He paused, studying my face. "She's suggesting that you might be having some kind of mental health crisis since Tom died, and that maybe Lily shouldn't be spending so much time here unsupervised." The calculated cruelty of it took my breath away. Jessica wasn't just angry about my boundaries. She was actively trying to damage my relationship with Lily and paint me as unstable. "Marcus, would you like to see something that might give you a different perspective on the situation?" I went to my kitchen drawer and pulled out the printed text messages, along with a timeline I'd been keeping of Jessica's cancellations, late pickups, and demands. I set them on the table in front of him. Marcus read silently, his expression growing darker with each line. When he finished, he sat back in his chair and ran his hands through his hair. Jesus, Eleanor, she's been telling people you're losing it, but she's the one mocking your heart problems to her friends? It gets worse, I said quietly, and showed him the timeline. This is a record of every time she's been late, canceled our plans, or dropped Lily off without asking. The day she's claiming I abandoned her was the day she forced me to cancel my cardiac stress test for the third time. Marcus stared at the documents for a long moment. Eleanor, I need to ask, would you be willing to share these with my lawyer? Why? Because Jessica filed a motion last month to reduce my custody time. She's claiming that Lily needs more stability and that I can't provide adequate childcare during my weekends. He tapped the text messages. But if she's treating you this way, the person she claims is her primary childcare support, then maybe the judge needs to see who's really providing stability in Lily's life. I felt a chill of realization. She's using me as a character witness for why you shouldn't have custody, while simultaneously treating me like a doormat? That's exactly what she's doing. And these messages show that she views you as easy babysitting rather than quality family time for Lily. Marcus's voice was getting firmer. Eleanor, would you consider writing a statement for the court about what really happened? About the pattern of disrespect and how she's been treating you? I thought about Lily, about the kind of environment she was growing up in. I thought about Jessica teaching her daughter that women exist to serve others without appreciation or respect. Marcus, I'll do more than write a statement. I'll testify if you need me to. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Thank you. I think it's time Lily had a parent who models respect for the people who love her. After Marcus left, I sat in my quiet kitchen and realized that Jessica's attempt to control the narrative had just backfired spectacularly. Sometimes the best justice is simply telling the truth. 3 weeks after my conversation with Marcus, I was tending to my garden when Jessica's car pulled into my driveway. It was a Saturday afternoon, warm for December, and I'd been enjoying the peaceful work of preparing my flower beds for winter. I didn't look up immediately, just continued pulling the last of the dead marigolds from their stems. I heard her car door close, then the soft sound of her footsteps on my walkway. She was moving slowly, hesitantly, so different from her usual confident stride. When I finally glanced up, I was surprised to see she was carrying a bouquet of white roses. My favorite flowers, the ones Tom used to bring me for our anniversary. Hi, Mom. Jessica looked smaller somehow, standing at the edge of my garden bed. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail instead of her usual perfectly styled waves, and she wasn't wearing makeup. She looked younger, more vulnerable, but also more tired than I'd seen her in years. Hello, Jessica. I continued working with my gardening shears, not making this moment easier for her than it needed to be. Can we talk? I glanced at my watch. I have about 20 minutes before I need to get ready for dinner with Helen. I'd been having weekly dinners with my mother-in-law since our conversation about boundaries. Turns out she'd been feeling dismissed by Jessica too. Mom, I brought you these. Jessica held out the roses, her voice shaky. I wanted to apologize. For everything. For the texts. For taking advantage of you. For what I said to Marcus about you being unreliable. So she knew about the custody hearing. Good. I stood up slowly, brushing the soil from my gardening gloves. Thank you for the flowers. They're beautiful. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about respect and boundaries. Jessica's eyes were bright with unshed tears. I talked to my therapist, the one I started seeing after the divorce, and she helped me understand how badly I've been treating you. I accepted the roses, but didn't immediately invite her inside. I'm glad you're getting help, Jessica. She said I've been using you as an emotional dumping ground since Dad died, that I was taking advantage of your grief and your need to feel useful. The tears started falling now. Mom, I'm so sorry. I know I hurt you. I know I made you feel invisible and unimportant, and that's the last thing I ever wanted to do. I studied my daughter's face, looking for the genuine remorse beneath the tears. It was there, mixed with fear, and something that looked like desperation. Jessica, I appreciate your apology. I do. But apologies don't automatically fix everything. I know that. Can we start over? Can we try to rebuild this? I miss you, Mom. Lily misses you too. The mention of Lily tugged at my heart, but I didn't let it show on my face. Jessica, I love you, and I love Lily. But I'm not your emergency babysitter anymore. I'm not your backup plan or your free childcare service. I'm your mother, and I expect to be treated with the same respect you'd show any other person you care about. Jessica nodded eagerly. Yes, absolutely. Whatever you need. It's not about what I need. It's about basic human decency. I paused, letting that sink in. If you want to rebuild our relationship, it has to be on equal terms. That means planned visits, not drop-offs. It means respecting my schedule, not expecting me to rearrange my life for your convenience. It means treating my health concerns as legitimate, not as attention-seeking behavior. I can do that. I want to do that. I looked at her standing there, holding on to hope and fear in equal measure, and felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. Not the desperate need to fix things immediately, not the familiar urge to make her feel better, just peace. We can try, Jessica, but slowly, and only if you're serious about change. She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath. I'm serious, Mom. I promise. We'll see, I said gently. Time will tell. 6 months later, I'm sitting in Dr. Chen's office for my quarterly follow-up appointment. It's a Tuesday morning, the same day of the week I used to cancel for Jessica's emergencies, and I arrived 15 minutes early with my blood pressure medication chart neatly filled out and my list of questions written in my notebook. Your numbers look excellent, Eleanor, Dr. Chen says, reviewing my chart. Blood pressure is well controlled, stress levels seem much better. Whatever changes you've made in your life are working. I smile, thinking about all the changes I couldn't have imagined 6 months ago. I learned to put my health first. After my appointment, I drive to the courthouse where I'm meeting Marcus for coffee. The custody hearing concluded last month with a different outcome than Jessica had hoped for. The judge was not impressed with her attempts to paint me as unstable while simultaneously relying on me for free childcare. Marcus now has equal custody, and Lily spends every other weekend with him, and with me when he brings her to visit. How's the new arrangement working? Marcus asks as we sit in the coffee shop across from the courthouse. It's different. Better. I stir honey into my tea, thinking about how to explain it. Jessica calls before she visits now. She asks if I'm available instead of assuming I am. She even brought her own snacks for Lily last weekend, instead of raiding my pantry. And how are you two doing? We're rebuilding, slowly. I pause, considering how much has changed. She's in therapy twice a week now, and she's actually listening to what she learns there. Last week, she asked me about my childhood, not because she needed something, but because she was genuinely curious about who I was before I became her mother. Marcus nods. That's progress. The biggest change is that I don't need her approval anymore. The words surprise me with their truth. For months after Tom died, I was so desperate to feel needed that I forgot I had value beyond what I could do for other people. We sit in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the courthouse bustle through the window. I think about the woman I was 6 months ago, the one who would cancel her own medical appointments, who accepted disrespect with a smile, who mistook being used for being loved. You know what the strangest part is? I tell Marcus. I thought setting boundaries would push Jessica away forever. But teaching her how to treat me properly actually made our relationship more honest. She respects me now in a way she never did when I was always available. After coffee, I drive to my favorite garden center to pick up bulbs for spring planting. As I'm selecting daffodils and tulips, my phone buzzes with a text from Jessica. Mom, would you like to have lunch Thursday? I know you have book club Wednesday, so I thought Thursday might work better. Let me know what time works for you. I smile at the message. She remembered my book club. She asked what worked for me instead of telling me what worked for her. Small changes, but they mean everything. That evening, I sit on my front porch with a cup of tea, watching the sunset paint my quiet street in shades of gold and pink. My house feels like mine again. Not a daycare center or storage unit, but a home where I live deliberately and peacefully. I pull out my phone and look at the photo Marcus sent me yesterday. Lily taking her first steps in his backyard, her face bright with joy and accomplishment. She's growing up in a world where the adults around her respect each other, where her grandmother isn't invisible, where love looks like boundaries instead of servitude. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is teach people how to treat you properly. My heart condition taught me that life is too short to live it on your knees. I think about the support group I started 3 months ago. 8 grandparents meeting every Thursday evening, learning that being needed and being respected are two very different things. Tonight, we're discussing how to have difficult conversations with adult children who've forgotten that their parents are people too. The greatest gift I gave my granddaughter wasn't free babysitting. It was showing her that women deserve respect, that love without boundaries isn't love at all, and that sometimes saying no is the most powerful word in the English language. As the stars come out over Maple Street, I feel something I haven't felt in years, completely at peace with who I am and how I'm choosing to live. The quiet house behind me isn't empty. It's full of possibility, dignity, and the kind of love that doesn't require me to disappear.